Well, hello there, and welcome to another episode of
Oodles of Brutals.
I don't often do album anniversary videos. I've done a few of them, but to be honest, I don't like to because they make me feel
Super fucking old.
But I really wanted to do one on Bleeding Through's This Is Love, This Is Murderous. Why not feature some metalcore for a change, you know? I listened to the shit out of metalcore in college, I have to admit. I listened to all kinds of metal guys, not just black metal, not just death metal, not just slam and brutal death metal. I listened to all kinds of metal, new metal, heavy metal, thrash metal, metal, all of it. So, Bleeding Through's This Is Love, This Is Murderous was released on September 23rd, 2003, so this is quite a belated anniversary episode, but it was their third album overall, but their first album for the infamous Trustkill Records. So this is the one that kind of broke them through to a bigger audience. It was produced by Ulrich Wild, who also did production work for bands such as Static X, Soil, Prong, Powerman 5000, and Apartment 26, another band that doesn't get a lot of love these days. What's surprising about This Is Love, This Is Murderous is how rough around the edges the production is. You'd expect it to be slicker sounding, being their first album for Trustkill, but it's actually still pretty gnarly sounding, surprisingly. You know, it's definitely got what I consider to be the classic metalcore sound. To me, there is a difference between metallic hardcore and metalcore. Metalcore, to me, is always more of a hybrid of hardcore and melodic death metal, and Bleeding Through definitely fit that descriptor. But they add some keyboards, which are very much akin to bands like Cradle of Filth and Dimmu Borgir. I'm probably not, all these years I probably still can't pronounce Dimmu's name correctly, but whatever, you know what I'm talking about. Courtesy of keyboardist Marta Peterson, who later on married Phil Demmel from Machine Head. So kind of interesting little tidbit there. The band also features Brandon Chiapatti, who was a member of Throwdown and 18 Visions, so he's got some pretty good metalcore pedigree going on there. The album landed on the US Heatseekers chart at number 45, and also the US Indie Albums chart at number 43, so did quite well coming out of the gate for these guys. Again, it was the album that broke them to a bigger audience. I've already said that like 5 million times, but
can't stress that enough, I guess.
So, what's interesting about this album, again, not only is the production still pretty rough around the edges, not only, you know, do they have the keyboards to kind of differentiate them, just the heaviness and viciousness of this album is just fantastic, especially compared to a lot of other metalcore at the time. It just, to me, felt like metalcore was getting more and more slick as time went on, and so it was nice to hear something that still had some viciousness to it. Although I will say some of the clean vocals on this are a little poppy sounding for my tastes, but not enough to distract from the rest of the album, which I think that's kind of the only little weak spot. Otherwise, this is a great album. You know, really fun to listen to. And also, look at these. Look, they had to have been the most attractive band in metalcore. I mean, look at these beefcakes in here. But anyway, with all seriousness, this is a really fun album. Oh, another surprising fact about this one, it holds a 90% on Metal Archives, which I was just shocked by, because usually anything on there with like even the littlest hint of metalcore or new metal or anything like that gets trashed into oblivion on there. So even the
basement dwellers at Metal Archives love Bleeding Through's third album.
It's just one of those rare albums that I think can appeal to a lot of different folks just because the mix of styles on it is so sound. I mean, they do a great job with the more hardcore sounding stuff. They do a great job with the death metal side. Again, they give it that sort of epic spin with the keyboards on here. It's just one of those that's, it stands out to me amongst the pack of metalcore bands that all sounded alike back then. And let's be honest, they were a dime a dozen. Bleeding Through had a sound that adhered to tradition that had been established at that point for the genre, yet also was super unique, which super hard thing to do. Here you're working within, at that point, a fairly established form, but then you just twist it a little, put your little spin on it, sprinkle a little crack on it, and all of a sudden you've got something new and different, which took something that was kind of becoming very uniform and made it unique, which I think that is super cool. That's why I think this is one of the few metalcore albums from that era that still holds up, in my opinion. The album they did after this, The Truth, is also pretty damn good. And I actually saw the band when they were touring behind The Truth. They played with Unearthed, Terror, and Through the Eyes of the Dead at the Wiltern Theater in Los Angeles, California back in 2006. I was there interning for Metal Blade Records, so I got to go to that show. One and only time seeing Bleeding Through, but it was a damn good show, let me tell you. Them and Through the Eyes of the Dead were the highlights for me, for sure. But yeah, Bleeding Through, This Is Love, This Is Murderous. One of the few metalcore albums that I still listen to on the regular. If you haven't heard it, it's definitely one to check out. Even if you're not the biggest metalcore fan, I think this one might surprise you just because it's so damn different than a lot of the generic shit that came out of that scene. This is a great album, and Bleeding Through are still out there tearing it up. And I'm going to keep this short and sweet. Just wanted to highlight this one and talk about it a little bit before I started to feel super old once again. 20 years of Bleeding Throughs. This is love. This is murderous. Until next time, guys, thanks for watching and take care. Peace.
Even if you're not the biggest I keep wanting to say medical instead of metalcore for some reason.